Okay, let's try that again. Technical problem on my end. My uh, server lost connection, and so um, we we will try again. So, okay, we had a couple people. I felt bad just as we had a. There's one, and hopefully we'll get some more. Please let me know who you are as you join us. I can see that a person came in. It would be nice to know who you are as you join us. So, um, as I was saying on the first um, try before I lost my connection. Catherine is here. So, and hello to you. Okay, so as I was saying, if your morning's been anything like mine, it's been filled with a lot of activity, a lot of problem solving, a lot of, hi Alina, good to have you with us, a lot of to-dos. So let's just take a moment and take a few deep breaths. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, feel free to do so. If not, just kind of have a distant focus and just focus on your breathing. And with each breath, just try to slow down your breath. Just allow it to slow down. You don't have to try, just allow it to slow down. Good. Okay. Now, imagine, if you would, that you have acquired a splinter. My glasses are cockeyed. No, that makes it worse. There, I think. Imagine that you've got a splinter right here in the upper part of your shoulder, on the outside of your shoulder. And it has become very tender and very sore. You've tried a number of times to dig it out, but every time you've tried it, you weren't able to get it out, and it's just become more swollen, more tender, and it's really become very, very sensitive. In fact, that if anyone touches it or even touches around it, it causes severe pain. Even if someone walks by and blows air on it, it hurts. You can be out in your walk in nature, and a leaf could fall on that, and it really hurts, really causes pain. So notice that the leaf is not the problem. The leaf is not the problem. It's what's inside. It's the splinter inside that is causing the problem. And so if a leaf were to brush up against your sore, and it would be non-productive at the least, to get mad at the leaf and to start swearing at the leaf, cussing at the leaf, tearing the leaf up, stomping on the leaf. Of course that would be silly, and we all know that, because the problem isn't the leaf. The problem is what's inside. And that's what a shadow is. A shadow is a wound or a splinter that we got long ago. And we've been picking at it and scratching it, and it's just gotten more and more swollen, more and more tender, and more sensitive. And so, like the leaf, hey Robert, like the leaf touching that splinter on the way down, when someone triggers our shadow, triggers our inner wound, it's not the outside. It's not the person who cuts us off in traffic. It's not the person who uses the same terminology that our parents used on us, or what have you. And when we vent towards the object or person that has touched that splinter or touched that wound, that shadow, it not only is not helpful, but it antagonizes it. It's like scratching the splinter. All it does is cause it to get more sore and get more infected, more swollen. The answer is not outside. The answer is within us. Because the problem is not outside. The problem is not that crazy driver. The problem is not our neighbor who won't bring his garbage cans in on a timely basis, or the what have you. Whatever we are noticing in our life that is triggering us, it's not them. We can change them. If I have a trigger that my partner or my spouse uses a terminology that triggers us, that causes us to react, that is not going to solve the problem, because the splinter is still going to be there. And we can't go through life with the expectation, okay, when I'm on the road, nobody drives slow, nobody drives faster than I do, nobody cuts in front of me, no one follows me too close, no one is in the way when I want to change lanes. That's not where the problem is. That's not where the wound is. We have to address the wound where it lies. And it's not out here. It's not out here. It's within. It's within here. So, and the reason I'm taking some time with this is, as we have been told most of our life, recognizing the problem is more than halfway done. So just by recognizing that irritant is not my problem, and trying to fix all of them is not going to bring peace and contentment and love into my life. I've got to address the splinter. I've got to address the wound, the shadow. And when we keep reacting to the things that antagonize us, it's like scratching the wound. It just makes it worse, and it makes the splinter, this is important, it makes the splinter go deeper. The more we scratch at it, the more it gets infected, the deeper the splinter goes. Hopefully you were with us last week when we had our conference, and we were talking about if you're standing on a curb and you look down the street and there's a city bus coming your way, huge city bus. No one, well, hopefully none of us, would lean into the bus and embrace the bus. What we naturally do is we lean back and we let the bus roll on by. And when we notice what we talked about briefly last week, if you missed last week, what we came to understand is that when anger comes up, when fear comes up, when any negative feeling, thought, or emotion comes up, don't embrace it. Lean back and just let it roll on by. And when you lean back, envision your angels and guides there, because they are there. They are there. Envision them behind you, and as you lean back from that bus of emotion or thought, imagine that you're leaning into them. You're leaning into their love. You're leaning into their support. And so as you're going about your day and something triggers your splinter or your wound, rather than lean into it and react, lean back from it and lean into the love of your angels. And then allow the anger, the reaction to just roll by. And as we do this, just like the biggest challenge in getting a splinter is leaving it alone. Because if we leave it alone, our wonderful healing bodies will push it out. And if we stop reacting to our buses of thought and emotion, and we just lean back and allow them to roll by and observe them. Let's talk about that. Another thing that we talked about last week is just take a moment and in your mind's eye see a red chair and just hold that red chair for a moment. Now see a yellow circle and just observe it. Hold it in your mind and observe it. And now envision a blue triangle. And no, there's no significance to the shapes or the colors. Could be anything. Okay? Now notice that at no time did you become that red chair. At no time did you become the blue circle, or the yellow circle, or the blue triangle. You were just observing them. And one of the biggest and most important things is to differentiate ourselves from the falsehood that I am my feelings. I am my thoughts. I am my emotions. Because we're not. We are the observers of them. And it's much more difficult to change our behavior if we say, sorry, a cat just walked by to say hi, so it's much more difficult to change the belief, I am an angry person, versus I am a wonderful, loving human being that from time to time struggles with anger. Huge difference. Huge, huge difference. When we become our emotions, when we come to believe that we are them, oh, it's so much more difficult to release them and to let them go and to move on. So, if you have problems with anger, identify, I am an awesome person, and from time to time, I am overcoming my anger. I am noticing that sometimes I get angry. And just like the chair and the triangle and the circle, I am letting it go. I'm not becoming the chair. I'm not identifying with the anger. And so when we get in front of it and we say, bad, 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 we push it deeper and deeper and deeper. When we get behind it and create love and peace behind it and lean into that, then from that relaxed, healing sense, focusing on what we do want in our life. As we've talked about before on here, if if I say, I don't want to be angry, I don't want to be angry, I don't want to be angry, I'm focusing on anger. And so I'm going to attract more anger. And I'm going to attract more people and things that will get me angry. If I focus on, I am more and more becoming peaceful and easygoing, then that's what I'm attracting. And when I do that, then it gives the natural healing of our bodies the opportunities to help it heal. Now, Katerina says, how much is a phobia something with no logic that affects you related to wounds? A phobia is a belief. A belief that it's a thought that we've told ourselves over and over and over again. If I have a phobia of black cats, when I was born, I was not afraid of black cats. But at one point, someone told me, ooh, you should be afraid of black cats. And then I started telling myself, I should be afraid of black cats. And then I started identifying, I am afraid of black cats. And then it becomes a phobia. I am a black cat phobic. So just like we were talking about, if you have a phobia, first of all, stop telling yourself. Stop reinforcing that you have a phobia. Not helpful. Not helpful. Let it go and focus on what you do want. Lean into your ancestors. Lean back into your angels. Lean into that love and peace and serenity. And then notice, oh, here comes something that I used to be afraid of, and now I'm just going to let it go by, and it's not even going to touch me. It's not even going to touch me. I'm just noticing it. I notice the red chair, and I notice that fear as it rolls on by. So, Katrina, does that help? Or anyone else? Anyone else have any questions, comments, concerns? No? Okay. Well, that was the main thing I wanted to cover today. And we'll continue to explore shadows and wounds. Yeah. You do get caught up in the feeling. And that is habit. And we get in the habit. Every time a bus comes down the road, we step in front of it and embrace it. No wonder it's so painful. I don't think any of us would recommend to our friends, see, Southtown number 5 bus, when it comes by, lean into it, embrace it. You'll enjoy it. No, it's painful. So, it's practicing, because we've been stepping into the emotion. We've been stepping into the thought. We've been stepping into the anger, the fear, what have you. We've been stepping into it for so long that it's subconscious. We do it subconscious. And how do we change a belief? By thought by thought, thought by thought, we change from what we don't want to what we do want. Now, My beautiful daughter Alina asks, my question is about how much percent are wounds genetical? There, studies have shown that beliefs can travel through DNA. Beliefs like religious beliefs or tribal beliefs can come through us through the DNA. Studies have shown that. However, it doesn't change it. If someone comes from 7 generations of being a certain religion, and you decide that that doesn't work for you, you're not stuck. You choose what does work for you. If you, I know a few. If you come from a family that for generation after generation after generation, there's bigotry and racism and so forth, you are not condemned to be a racist. You are not condemned to hate people of a different race or skin color or religion or what have you. And so, just like we've talked about, you change it one thought at a time. And something happens and we go, ooh, and then we say, no, I'm just going to lean in back into the love, light, and peace and just allow that racist thought to just roll on by. And I'm going to say, I am a loving person of all races, colors, orientation, what have you. Alina, does that answer your question? Now, genetical beliefs are more deeply embedded in us. And it does take some work. But studies have shown, no matter what, studies have shown that the beliefs that we have come to accept, the younger we are when the seed is planted, the more work it requires to uproot and let it go. But it's not impossible. There are many of us that have changed our genetical beliefs about racism, about religion, about politics, about I know a lot of people that that come from families that only had a high school education or high school, some oftentimes even less. I've got a good friend that lives in the coal part of the country. I'll say his name. And for 5 or 6 generations, no one ever went much past the 6th or 7th grade, because at that point, they could either work in the coal mines or work around the house so that others could work in the coal mines. And that was the whole focus. I'm going to work in the coal mine. And generation after generation, that belief is reinforced and reinforced. But he has a master's degree in chemistry, and he's teaching at a university. So I need to scroll back to, hi Carla. Carla, you're just getting in on the end, so if you have time, we're going to be wrapping up here. We're just having questions and answers. I'm trying to get back to Alina's. Not only believes I experienced what my mother did and how she reacted towards getting beaten. Yeah. And Alina brings up a really good point, and that is her mother was beaten by a man or men, and she's never been beaten, but she has a fear of being beaten, and she's asking, is that something that she inherited through DNA? I would suggest that alternatively, it's because being around your mother, you acquired her reaction. And when you observed her around angry men, and you saw her fear, you incorporated the fear that you saw. Now, this gets into the centuries long discussion of nature versus nurture. Are we born with it or do we learn it? But either way, if we're born with it or whether we learn it through observation, the freedom is available to us by thought, shifting, leaning back, letting that fear roll by, and saying, I have a loving, gentle husband. I have a loving, gentle father. I have loving, gentle friends. And I know that not all men beat women. And I keep reinforcing that. I keep reinforcing that thought until that thought becomes my belief. So, Alina, let me know if that answers your question. Linnell asks, the belief sometimes includes the strong thought that we deserve the pain. Yeah. And Linnell, great point. And that is what holds many of us back, is when we were being beaten, when we were being disrespected, when we were being dishonored, oftentimes with that came the psychological abuse of you deserve this. I know many abused people that were frequently asked, why do you make me do this? You are such a terrible person. You make me do this to you. And when we're told something enough, there's a great, if you haven't seen it, I encourage you. There's a great YouTube video put out by CNN called "This is an Apple," and the basic thing is if we're told enough times that an apple is a banana, we might come to believe that the apple is a banana, but it doesn't change it. And you could have, Linnell and all of us, we may have been told that we deserve it, that it's our duty and responsibility to put up with the disrespect and the pain and the fear and so forth. We might have been told that thousands of times, and we may have even come to believe it. However, the truth is that is not true. That is not true. That will never be true. And so if you've come to believe that, change the belief. One thought at a time. And surround yourself with people who will remind you that you are worth it. Okay, now I'm losing people again. Not losing them, but losing their comments. Totally, I think there are both observation and heredity, but I also have so strong against it that I didn't attract the same kind of men. So thank you. Yeah. And yeah, some of it is nurture, some of it is nature. Some we get through DNA, some we observe. However, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Because the way we change the belief is by one thought at a time, we correct it. Quick story. Katerina, I'll get to you. Quick story. When you're on a plane going from, let's say, Florida to Los Angeles, or New York to, it doesn't matter. Most of us, for years, 45 years, I believe you take off in LA, straight line, you land in New York. But I was talking with a really good friend of mine who's a commercial airline pilot, and he said, oh no, he kind of chuckled. He says, oh no, that isn't what happens. Typically, a plane will take off, you'll get to the cruising altitude, the pilot will take all their readings to make sure they're where they need to be, and then the pilot will put it on autopilot. Not because he's lazy, but because the FDA recommends it, because it keeps them fresh, it keeps them sharp. And so they put it on autopilot for, I can't remember if he said for an hour or for a half hour, probably depends on the length of the flight. And then after a certain period of time, a little bell goes off that reminds them that they need to check their readings. They take it off of autopilot, and it's always off course. Because crosswinds come up and all kinds of different things. And so they gently bring it back into alignment, and then they put it back on autopilot. Now, it's not, it's not like you're headed for New York and then all of a sudden you discover that you're on your way to Minnesota. It's slight, but if not corrected, it could become an issue. And so it's just this gentle course correction. And that's what we do. We realize, hey, I'm headed somewhere I don't want to go. And so we make gentle, loving course corrections. As I've said oftentimes on here, if I want to go to Mexico, it's not a good plan for me to head north. I don't care where you are in the Canada or US, not a good idea to head north if you want to go to Mexico. And if I want to come to a soft, loving, peaceful place in my life, I'm not going to get there by beating myself up, dehumanizing myself, ridiculing myself, and surrounding myself with people who do that. If I want to go to Mexico, I've got to start walking south. If I want to get to a loving, peaceful place in my life, I need to start talking loving, speaking loving, thinking loving, kind, gentle. And when I notice that I'm off course, I bring myself back into alignment. As we've often said on here, the solution to a crying baby is not to spank it. The solution to you being off course is to not beat yourself up. So, Ekaterina. So when you have a burst of fear, anger, whatever, there can be a physical response. Is that the leaning away from the bus moment? Maybe breathe, visualize your angels. When you feel that burst of emotion, anger, fear, or whatever, that is the realization that you stepped into the line of the bus because of habit, not because good or bad. It hasn't got anything to do with that. It's habit. It's habit. So we notice, I just stepped into the path of this anger, this fear, this whatever. And so if you really were on a city bus, or excuse me, on a side of a city street, and you accidentally stepped into the street and you saw the bus coming, what would you do? You'd step back. So you notice the fear, you notice the anger, you notice the negative thought or emotion, and you notice that your reaction was to step into it. So you say, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to step back, I'm going to lean back, and I'm just going to watch the bus roll by. I'm not going to judge myself. I'm not going to stand in front of the bus scolding myself for stepping in front of the bus. I'm just, first and foremost, I'm going to get the hell out of the way. That's my number one priority. I'm going to get out of the way. So, looks like we're coming up on still about 42 minutes. Anything else before we wrap up? Okay. Thank you, my loves. Thank you. God bless you. I appreciate you so much. I hold each of you in my prayers and my meditations, and I send you light constantly. And if you have any further questions, personal questions, feel free to reach me here. If you'd like to work on this together one-on-one, I'd be happy to work with you. So much love to you all. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Alina, you're almost at 10 o'clock, so a little early to say goodnight because I know you're a night owl, but blessings to you all and much love. Namaste.